Hello, and welcome to another video from the YouTube channel, From Religion to Agnostic. Elishah, or Elysius, was the son of Javan according to the book of Genesis, 10:4, in the Masoretic text. The Greek Septuagint of Genesis 10 lists Elysium not only as the son of Javan, but also a grandson of Japeth. His name is spelled differently in Hebrew to the prophet Elishah, ending in a hay instead of an ayin. Scholars have often identified Elishah with Cypriots, as in ancient times the island of Cyprus or part of it was known as Elishah. According to the Jewish Encyclopedia, Elishah is to be identified with Magna Graecia and Sicels. Judean historian Flavius Josephus related the descendants of Elishah with the Aeolians, one of the ancestral branches of the Greeks. Elishah is also mentioned in the medieval, rabbinic book of Jasher, Hebrew transliteration, Sefer HaYashar. He is said in Jasher to have been the ancestor of the Almanim, possibly a reference to Germanic tribes, Alemanni. An older and more common tradition refers to him as a settler of Greece, particularly Elis in the Peloponnese. Lusitanian mythology traditionally makes Elishah, under the name Lysias/Lysias, an ancestor and predecessor of Lucis, Elishah being older, having arrived accompanying his uncle Tubal founding Port Allegra in 1900 BC under Iberian King Brigo. Lysias' own supposed tomb, in Port Allegra, claims that he was the first cultivator of Lusitania. Lucis' reign is traditionally placed in the 16th to 15th centuries BC, example in the Livro Primario de Monarchia Lusitana. All this is debated. Lucis has also been described as coming before Lysias, who would thus be too late to be Elishah or vaguely at the same time, or even the same individual under different names. Lucis is sometimes called a son of Bacchus and of the lineage of Lysias, or the other way around, or even a mere companion. The Portuguese orator and mythographer Father Antonio Vieira, 1608 to 1697, refers to Elishah, under his actual biblical name, as founder and eponym of Lisbon and Lusitania, when he came to Iberia with his uncle Tubal, as well as the origin of the name of the mythological Elysium. Vieira also identified Elishah's biblical brother Tarshish as the founder of Tartessos in Andalusia, implying both would have come to Iberia with Tubal, though this isn't the only theory on the identity of Tarshish. Elishah in this Portuguese portrayal is identified with Bacchus Captain Lysias/Lysias, sometimes also with Lucis and Feronius, and is referred to as the founder of Port Allegra and being buried at the Ermita de São Cristóvão, chapel of Saint Christopher, inside the town. That's about as much as I could find on this Elishah, though when looking in other source materials, we see in the Jewish Encyclopedia. It states, Javan, in the table, and elsewhere in the Old Testament, stands for the mainland of Greece. His sons, therefore, are Greek colonies. Elishah is named with Tarshish, southwest coast of Spain, Kittim and Dodanum, Cyprus and Rhodes, and thus must have been another Greek colony, that namely, in the south of Italy or Sicily. The Hebrews, through Phoenician sources, had certainly heard of this region, as they had heard of the much more remote Tarshish. So, now we see according to the Jewish Encyclopedia that Javan was associated with the Greeks. And that would leave one to go back to Elishah and look at where it says. And I quote. The Portuguese orator and mythographer Father Antonio Vieira, 1608 to 1697, refers to Elishah, under his actual biblical name, as founder and eponym of Lisbon and Lusitania, when he came to Iberia with his uncle Tubal, as well as the origin of the name of the mythological Elysium. So again, when researching this sticks out to me, mythological Elysium, let's check it. Elysium or the Elysian Fields is a conception of the afterlife that developed over time and was maintained by some Greek religious and philosophical sects and cults. It was initially separated from the Greek underworld and realm of Hades, and only mortals related to the gods and other heroes could be admitted here. Later, the conception of who could enter was expanded to include those chosen by the gods, the righteous, and the heroic. They would remain at the Elysian Fields after death, to live a blessed and happy life, and indulge in whatever employment they had enjoyed in life. The Elysian Fields were, according to Homer, located on the western edge of the earth by the stream of Okeanos. In the time of the Greek poet Hesiod, Elysium would also be known as the Fortunate Isles, or the Isles, or Islands, of the Blessed, located in the Western Ocean at the end of the earth. The Isles of the Blessed would be reduced to a single island by the Theban poet Pindar, describing it as having shady parks, with residents indulging in athletic and musical pastimes. The ruler of Elysium varies from author to author. Pindar and Hesiod name Cronus as the ruler, while the poet Homer in the Odyssey describes fair-haired Rhadamanthus dwelling there. The Isle of the Blessed is also featured in the 2nd century comedic novel, True Story, by Lucian of Samosata. In classical literature, in the Greek historian Plutarch's Life of Sertorius, Elysium is described as: these are 2 in number, separated by a very narrow strait, they are 10,000 furlongs distant from Africa, and are called the Islands of the Blessed. They enjoy moderate rains at long intervals, and winds which for the most part are soft and precipitate dews, so that the islands not only have a rich soil which is excellent for plowing and planting, but also produce a natural fruit that is plentiful and wholesome, enough to feed, without toil or trouble, a leisured folk. Moreover, an air that is salubrious, owing to the climate and the moderate changes in the seasons, prevails on the islands. For the north and east winds which blow out from our part of the world plunge into fathomless space, and, owing to the distance, dissipate themselves and lose their power before they reach the islands, while the south and west winds that envelope the islands sometimes bring in their train soft and intermittent showers, but for the most part cool them with moist breezes and gently nourish the soil. Therefore a firm belief has made its way, even to the barbarians, that here is the Elysian field and the abode of the blessed, of which Homer sang. Plutarch, Life of Sertorius, 8:2 Diodorus, in his first book, suggested that the Elysian fields which were much celebrated in ancient Greek poetry, corresponded to the beautiful plains in the neighborhood of Memphis which contained the tombs of that capital city of Egypt. He further intimated that the Greek prophet Orpheus composed his fables about the afterlife when he traveled to Egypt and saw the customs of the Egyptians regarding the rites of the dead. And in post-classical literature, Elysium as a pagan expression for paradise would eventually pass into usage by early Christian writers. In Dante's epic The Divine Comedy, Elysium is mentioned as the abode of the blessed in the lower world, mentioned in connection with the meeting of Aeneas with the shade of Anchises in the Elysian fields. With such affection did Anchises' shade reach out, if our greatest muses owed belief, when in Elysium he knew his son. Dante, Divina Commedia, Par Canto 15 line 25 through 27, in the Renaissance, the heroic population of the Elysian fields tended to outshine its formerly dreary pagan reputation. The Elysian fields borrowed some of the bright allure of paradise. In Paris, the Champs-Élysées retain their name of the Elysian fields, first applied in the late 16th century to a formerly rural outlier beyond the formal parterre gardens behind the royal French palace of the Tuileries. After the Renaissance, an even cheerier Elysium evolved for some poets. Sometimes it is imagined as a place where heroes have continued their interests from their lives. Others suppose it is a location filled with feasting, sport, song. Joy is the daughter of Elysium, in Friedrich Schiller's Ode to Joy. The poet Heinrich Heine explicitly parroted Schiller's sentiment in referring to the Jewish Sabbath food Kolant as the daughter of Elysium, in his poem, Princess Shabbat. Christian and classical attitudes to the afterlife are contrasted by Christopher Marlowe's Dr. Faustus saying, "This word, damnation, terrifies not me, for I confound hell and Elysium." In Shakespeare's Twelfth Night when Viola says, "My brother he is in Elysium," she and Elizabethan audiences understand this as paradise. In Mozart's The Magic Flute Papageno compares being in Elysium to winning his ideal woman. De Lebens als weiser mich freuen, und wie im Elysium sen. Enjoy life as a wise man, and feel like I'm in Elysium. Miguel de Cervantes' Don Quixote describes Dulcinea del Toboso as beauty superhuman, since all the impossible and fanciful attributes of beauty which the poets apply to their ladies are verified in her, for her hairs are gold, her forehead Elysian fields. In John Ford's 1633 tragedy 'Tis Pity She's a Whore, Giovanni seals his requited love for his sister Annabella, stating, "And I'd not change it for the best to come, a life of pleasure in Elysium." And also before we go we read, and I quote, Lusitanian mythology traditionally makes Elishah, under the name Lysias/Lysias, an ancestor and predecessor of Lucis, Elishah being older, having arrived accompanying his uncle Tubal founding Port Allegra in 1900 BC under Iberian King Brigo. So let's check Lusitanian mythology. Lusitanian mythology is the mythology of the Lusitanians, an Indo-European speaking people of western Iberia, in the territory comprising most of modern Portugal, Galicia, Extremadura, and a small part of Salamanca. Lusitanian deities heavily influenced all of the religious practices in western Iberia, namely also in Galicia. They mingled with Roman deities after Lusitania was conquered. Recently, a Vasconian substrate is starting to be recognized. Alrighty, and that will do it for this video. Catch you on the next one. Have a great day, and be safe. If you enjoyed this video, please think about subscribing, as well as hitting the like and sharing would help out a lot. Thank you all, and may the gods be with you.